Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Doug Kreitzberg. I'm CEO of SeedPod Cyber, and we're here to talk about best practices and emerging risks for MSPs. And happy for all of those who've been able to join. Thank you for joining. And if you're viewing this at a later time, I'm glad you could jump on as well. I'm really excited for the topics that we're going to be covering today because they are timely. And we were even talking before the webinar about some emerging risks that happened, yes, or 2 days ago, I guess, that kind of fold into the conversations here as well. Here, I just want to do a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into it. I've got Kyle Sadi. Kyle is with SeedPod Cyber. He's our Chief Revenue Officer and EVP of Underwriting. So, Kyle, thank you. Here.
Thanks, Doug.
We also have Gregg Lalle. Gregg is President of Synthreo. Gregg has been in the channel for decades, many of which with ConnectWise, as he's built out channels for ConnectWise in other countries, Australia, and then over in Europe as well. So, Gregg, thanks for joining here. And then we have Howard Panensky. Howard is a partner with Pierson Ferdinand. Howard is part of their privacy and security practice group. So, Howard, thanks for joining as well. We're going to touch on a few things here. We're going to first talk about the state of the cyber insurance marketplace, and then we're going to talk about really AI and how MSPs should be thinking about approaching AI with respect to their business and with respect to presenting it to their clients. And Gregg's going to speak to that. Synthreo develops mechanisms to help MSPs kind of implement AI agents and workflow procedures here. And then we're going to switch over and talk about the emerging risks that MSPs face and how they can set themselves up in the best way to deal with AI risks or aggregation risk, as it's called, which we'll find out more about here. Joining us later on will be Sinclair Morris, whom many of our MSP partners are very familiar with. She's our account executive, and then Sinclair is going to talk about the new areas that SeedPod Cyber is working with and how we're helping MSPs through our insurability audit platform really sell their cybersecurity services there. So we'll touch on a little bit more about that. But first, I just want to turn it over to Kyle. Actually, before I do that, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to put them in the chat here as we go along. Maddie, who's keeping charge of everything, our head of logistics here, we'll make sure that if we don't see the question, we will respond to it as we go along. This is meant to be as much of a dialogue as possible. So if you do have questions during any of the presentations, don't hesitate to just throw them out there. Okay. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. So Kyle, what's going on in cyber insurance? Is there anything we have to worry about?
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Appreciate the floor. Thank you to everybody for calling in or joining or watching at a later time or date. And again, thank you to Gregg and Howard so much, our partners who want to jump on and give their expertise. It's greatly appreciated. So let's talk about the state of the market. I'm really going to take a couple minutes and break it down into 4 different areas. So we'll talk about pricing, claims activity, things to watch, and then some innovation. So let's start with pricing. Pricing, it's been what the market would call a challenging market for, I would say, last 2 to 3 years. It's been what's called a soft market. So we basically have 2 different markets, soft versus hard. Hard market, there's restricted capacity. Prices tend to go up. A lot of times that's driven by claims and less players in the marketplace. We've had a soft market over the last 2 to 3 years, and in the U.S. alone, I think last year was estimated that rates dropped by around 2 to 3% last year in total. We like to use the U.S. as a baseline because the U.S. market is the most saturated and developed. When you go global, it gets a little bit smaller and it's kind of a newer market. So what does that mean? If you're a client sitting out there, you're saying, well, cheaper pricing, that's a good thing, right? Well, it could be and it couldn't be, like most things in this world, and I'll walk you through that. So first off, the good part is if prices are going down, a lot of times it gives our clients opportunity to purchase higher limits. And that can be a big advantage, right? If you get a discount on your pricing at a 1 mil or a 2 mil, or at a 5 mil, and all of a sudden you have the budget to buy a 5 mil or even a 10 mil, that's a good thing, right? You get more bang for your buck, more capacity for the premium. So that's a positive. The concern long term is that we're very much concerned that if prices continue to drop to a certain degree, that they are not going to be able to cover the losses that are happening in the marketplace. And I'll talk about claims activity in a little bit, but claims activity is very busy. There are a lot of losses in the marketplace, both large clients, small clients, everything in between. And again, when we kind of look at the history of the cyber market, there's really only been one hard market, which was a couple of years ago. And clients really want consistency from everybody, and that's what we all want, right? You don't want to go through a period where 1 year your premium's mid level, then it drops 5 points, and then it goes up 20 points, and it kind of is volatile like that. We want consistency, and that's what we're hoping for. So again, just something to watch right now. Again, great time to take advantage, maybe increase limits or get a good deal. But hopefully long term, we're looking for that stability. So claims activity, let's talk a little bit about that. The threat landscape, it's definitely continuing to get tougher. It's, cyber is at the forefront of developing, what type of losses occur and that sort of thing. There's more frequency and frequency on larger losses as well. I think there was one report I was looking through where data exfiltration, which is common now with ransomware, doubled in 2024, and ransomware continues to remain a big driver in loss. Just to break down for you what I've seen in the past with ransomware attacks, it's really typically a double or triple extortion threat. A threat actor might launch a ransomware attack, and a client won't be able to access their system. Yes, that's a piece of it. But when you exfiltrate the data, that's when it's really concerning as well, right? How much is that data worth to you as a company? There was a really nasty event a couple of years ago that I always explain to people. There was a public company that had a double ransomware event, and they were going through a lawsuit at the same time, and their litigation strategy was exfiltrated. So how much is that worth to you? Well, you put the number on the price of the lawsuit, and then the threat actors were smart enough to ask for a reasonable amount. But these are the kind of things that all the companies we're working with have to think about and be concerned about. And then emerging exposures as well. So AI enabled attacks, right? Every single day we're pretty much all hearing about AI. Threat actors are using AI. The good guys are trying to use AI as well to protect, but the battle continues. Vendor supply chain vulnerabilities, non-traditional cyber events like system outages, which we'll talk about in a second. Those are all things that are front of mind and really honestly becoming commonplace at this point. If not on a daily conversation, at least on a weekly conversation. You talked about ransomware. We continue to see a lot of different business email compromise type claims, a lot of different social engineering type of claims that trigger e-crime coverage. And then something that's really kind of popped up in the last couple of years are third-party claims. And really that gets into things like wrongful collection and different privacy events like that. It's really interesting because we've seen in the marketplace a pretty big uptick on these claims and a lot of different payouts. But to give you the mindset of an insurance carrier, when there is a cyber event like a ransomware event, you can pretty much figure out what the cost is fairly quickly. You know kind of what the extortion demand is, if there's a quick payout. Pretty soon after, you're going to have an idea of forensic costs, maybe business interruption, that sort of thing. When you look at third-party claims and matters where there is like a wrongful collection or a privacy element, those actually take years to play out. And behind the scenes, those are actually driving some losses behind for different carriers where maybe they were closing their books from cyber events in 2022, 2023, and these third-party claims are really kind of reemerging and rearing its head. So it's something that we all need to be careful and think about because it goes back to that soft versus hard market and where the market's going. The final thing, well, actually, there's two more things I want to mention. Things to watch. So again, I think I found one person this week that didn't know about the Amazon event. That was my mother-in-law who lives in Vermont. Outside of her, pretty much everyone else knew about Amazon. Listen, that wasn't even what we call a cyber attack. That's basically a system failure, which is a common coverage in cyber insurance. But these are the type of things that we're looking at, those downstream impacts when one major organization ends up impacting a lot of different organizations and what that means. And that was only for 2 hours, right? That is a drop in the bucket. That's nothing. What if that turns into 12 hours, 72 hours, a week? It's all things that can have a big impact to a lot of different businesses. The other event that I was recently reading about, which was across the pond. So the Jaguar Land Rover hack, it led to, I think, a shutdown manufacturing for about 6 weeks. Again, this is becoming very common. We're seeing this. But what I saw, it had a major impact on Britain's economy. I think it was about 5,000 entities were affected, which is incredible. And again, if you think of where a business might be in the chain of a car, a Jaguar or a Land Rover car getting and being sold to the client, you can think of all the different companies and businesses that are affected in that just because of one ransomware attack on one entity. It's become commonplace and something that we're all going to continue to see, unfortunately. The final thing I'll hit on is just innovation and what that looks like maybe for the future. Innovation is always top of mind with cyber. And that can be in a couple different things. That can be different coverage expansions. That can be services. That can be the way that the market is providing solutions. I think what we're really focused on, and this is a little bit on the SeedPod side for sure, is really focusing on the expansion of the SMB market. And what that looks like is getting away from kind of traditional insurance applications and really looking at things like telemetry and different data collected from digital infrastructure to understand a client's risk profile, and then getting quotes, terms, and education out there easier. And that's a big thing, right? We have so many clients that are smaller in size that it takes a lot, right, to sit there and complete all these applications and then go through that process. We want to make sure that we're innovating and finding a better solution. So, we're focused on that here. Hopefully other markets are focused on that as well. But I think that's going to be a big thing in innovation for the year to come. So I'll pause there. Happy to take any questions, or Doug, I'll just flip it back to you.
Yeah, great. There, really appreciate the overview, Kyle. And I think one thing that the market we talk about cyber insurance and what's happening within the insurance itself. At the same time, you've talked about kind of the risks that, the impact, the systemic risks there that can occur from a cloud, going down like Amazon Web Services, or kind of the third-party risks that a Jaguar or another vendor. We're all kind of connected. And now you mix into it AI, which allows those connections to move faster, allows those to be understood more, and allows those to be maybe compromised as well. And with AI is bringing a lot of great opportunity for, we'll just pivot to the MSPs, the managed service providers, to leverage for their own purposes. A 5-person team perhaps can now do the work of a 20-person team there. At the same time, there's challenges in doing it. So we're going to turn to Gregg Lalle, president of Synthreo. Gregg, again, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Tell us about Synthreo and kind of help us understand how we should be thinking about dealing with AI these days.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on, Doug, and for you and the whole team for SeedPod. I'm not seeing any slides, so I'm not sure if you have any up or not, if you have anything presented.
Yep.
Oh, there
Yep.
we
There
go.
we go.
Okay, cool. I've got a few slides to go over, but just a little bit about kind of to dovetail onto your comment on the supply, the supply chain. Our responsibility at Synthreo is to really keep and inject MSPs into the supply chain for AI. Right now, this is rapidly evolving. They're kind of getting on the peripheral, wondering what should we be doing? Am I getting squeezed out? We've got these businesses going directly to consumers and to businesses, and MSPs really need to kind of establish themselves as kind of the go-to in that consultant. So, again, that's what the purpose of our organization is. It's to, really help MSPs drive the next generation digital workforce. And we've got to do so based upon, these strong foundational principles. We've got to build it correctly. This isn't something that's going to go away. It's not a passing fad, as everybody knows. And hopefully people will build it correctly. And that's what we're really here to do, is help MSPs go on that journey for both themselves and their customers. So before I kind of talk about what I'm going to talk about today, just want to do a quick introduction of the organization, so you know a little bit about kind of the value of Synthreo. So next slide, just want to highlight our whole ELT is well established in the channel. So we've got over 110 years of combined MSP experience, many former leaders. Vince obviously came over. He was a seven year in a row. He doubled his revenue, exited to Lyra. Callan was the CPO of LionGuard most recently and came over, so well known, as well as Arlen Sorensen, many of you know from HTG and now Evolve, ConnectWise Evolve. So we've got a whole rich experience on the board. And the main focus that we really try to do, next slide, is help MSPs, again, bridge that gap between you, your customers, and yourselves, and really put yourselves in that firm, driver's chair. So we have a white labeled service solution that's out of the box. Basically, you can sell it with good margins. We produce a lot of assets and framework for you to help you get to market, help you advertise, help you communicate effectively with what are the services and the pricing and packaging that you need to put together in order to do so. And a big component of that is compliancy. What do you need to do with MSA, which I'm sure you'll hear about later, of how you change your contracts and what you should be thinking about. And then ultimately, we're the only platform right now that's backed by services. It also has a broad range of capabilities. So you think of RPA, both generative and agentic AI, interactions with large language models, and a full machine learning engine. So we have this whole suite of products that we operate either with you or on your behalf to help you deliver business outcomes to your customers. So enough about Synthreo, a little bit about kind of the MSP journey where you guys are, where I think you're at right now, right? I talk to a lot of MSPs every day, and there's tremendous pressure going on right now. There's a lot of conversations. Your customers are looking at you to be wizards. They're hearing all of this stuff on the news, and they're expecting to give you a mountain of data, and you're going to make magic out of it, right? All of these years of things they've compiled of numbers and formats and outcomes. So there's tremendous expectations from the customer. They're turning to you looking for leadership. There are competitors moving forward with offerings. So they're starting to getting pricing and packaging. They're starting to engage customers with a monetization strategy for themselves as an MSP, but also as a business enabler and a changer of business practices for the organizations they serve. And so we are seeing progress. So where we kind of saw everybody kind of standing around, kind of wondering for a while, we see this now, people taking steps and moving forward. And of course, a week can't go by where a new large language model is announced with capabilities, a new partnership between large organizations, cloud providers, et cetera, to help deliver and bring more services out there. So there's this huge technology overload going on right now, and regulators and regulations are on the rise and will continue to be so. We know that historically from any technology that's come to market. They're letting it run for a period, but we're starting to see these frameworks. So I really want to stress today that the best place to start is with education. This conversation today is a great example, and SeedPod opening this up to allow other folks to come on and to be able to communicate some of the values and tools that we can bring to the table and help is a great step forward. So the next slide, please. What I'd like to do is just outline some principles in ISO 42001, which is the existing framework that we have now that we know and we point to as a good guide. And I tell people all the time, not having principles or these things completely in place doesn't prevent you from moving forward. But like anything else, that you need to have an understanding of where you are and where you want to go, and find partners and yourselves, your own internal organizations, to fill those gaps. So from an AI governance framework, just overall perspective, you would not believe how many MSPs, we talked about this, Doug, I think yesterday, you, Howard, and I, about how many MSPs don't have their own responsible AI policies for internal mechanisms. If you asked your colleagues today, or do you know what you're allowed to do, what you're supposed to be doing with the tools that are out there in the marketplace? Many people can't answer that question. And we have to remove that ignorance. And you have to remove that ignorance at your customer side as well, because a lot of IP is getting leaked into these free models. So you have to be able to come up with a responsible AI policy that makes sense, that you can communicate and becomes part of a culture within the organization. Think of AI much like security. A lot of similarities, from everything from kind of the incident response if something goes bump in the night, all the way to the planning and the framework and structure and the guardrails that need to be put in place to begin with so people can use it responsibly. From a risk management perspective, again, internally, I would say to have a readiness assessment conducted based on these 42001 principles. So you want to make sure that you know where those gaps, we just talked about that a second ago. It's okay if you have gaps, but you need to be aware of them, and you need to understand which ones are red, yellow, green, and which ones you're focusing on this quarter to close, so that you want to do so that with your own internal business as well as your customers. From a transparency perspective, you want to make sure you employ AI solutions that can document and show your work. You want to make sure and cite the sources when you're pulling information. You want to be able to create workflows and cognitive diagrams that show exactly what is going on so that you can manage the change management process. And that will occur. You're going to have revisions under the AI structure. So make sure that it can be documented. You can have version control. And again, this all builds confidence, both internally as you build that culture of confidence, as well as externally, that you could produce an audit trail when called upon by the other organizations, the customers that you serve, to be able to fulfill the principles. And again, this whole 42001, it's not that I'm certifying that you're going to get certified. Excuse me, that's not what Synthreo does. What we do is we help you build on these principles in the event that you go down that route and you want to get certified. You're going to have a lot easier time going through that certification, building the foundation and building your practice responsibly from the get-go. So if we look at the human oversight, right, this is a big one right now, right? Inside the responsible AI policies, a lot of times we'll list what can and can't be done with AI. What needs a human, if it's an HR decision, if it's a legal decision, what needs to have a human make decisions versus potential AI. And there's two concepts, right? There's humans in the loop, where you can run actual workflows and you can have approvals that are conducted where a human will then give that checkpoint and make sure that if a flag is raised or a gate needs to be raised, that a human will do that in order for the workflow to continue. And then it could also be a human on the loop where it runs a process, and before it hits go, that a human will review that work and make sure that that's exactly the outcome and the output is what's to be expected. So understand how you're going to manage and maintain AI in a long-term solution, and make sure that's outlined and documented in your responsible AI policy. From a data quality and security perspective, again, this goes back to the original comment. People give you a bunch of stuff and they want you to make magic out of it, right? You have to make sure and try to get that data and train it well. You have to get it cleaned up. And there's a lot of projects and there's a lot of money that can be done and made around those as well. But what it really does is improves the reliability. As everybody knows, it's the garbage in, garbage out theory. We've got to make sure that the data we're sifting through and we're looking to make decisions is the right data. And again, I go back to, if it isn't, cite the source. So that if you're getting unexpected results, you can go back and find out where those results are coming from and make changes. When at all possible, I put a big asterisk, produce and really wait and gather and group your information prior to going to any LLM or model. The more that you can do that in your data, in your warehouse, the better off you're going to be from a risk exposure and a hallucination rate. So you want to be able to process the data. You want to be able to make sense of it and vectorize it. And so the more you can do that inside the applications and the partners that you choose to work with, the better off you're going to be. And I can talk to that a little bit more as well. And then there's going to be a continuous improvement loop. So you want to make sure that you're visiting this every quarter. You have accountability. You have, people in the organization who are making sure that the policies are put in place are adhered to, number one, and they're followed and they're promoted. And secondarily, that you're updating as changes will be made. This isn't a set it and forget it. We all know we're in the early innings. So there's a lot of work to be done. But if we do it based upon foundation and principles, we should be in a really good shape to build a healthy practice for a long time to come. Next slide. I'll take a break, Doug, if you have any thoughts or suggestions before I kind of go. I think you're on mute. Here you go.
Right. First of all, a great overview going through there. What I was thinking is, the how do you put the genie back in the bottle where you're walking in an organization where everybody's kind of got their own LLM, it's now BYOLLM, right? Here, and get them to really begin focusing on it. What's the process? And maybe it's leading into your lead with education and culture bill here, but what's the best practice around that?
Yeah, I mean, we believe the best practice is to keep the information away from the LLMs as much as possible. They're already being commoditized, as we see, as we talk about every week something new comes out and price points are going to get driven down. So again, I would say instead of building a practice based upon one specific LLM, build your own data, build your own information, and pivot and point it towards whatever you want. And you can, that's on a pricing. If a pricing shift occurs, if OpenAI changes their strategy. I use the example of the 4.0 when they shut that down and people went nuts. Like people that had workflows built in there lost everything over the weekend, and of course on Monday they turned it back on. They put their hands up and said, "Hey, sorry, we didn't mean to do that." But if that was a monetization strategy, if that was intentional, or if they have to eventually at some point charge more and change their strategy, you're going to be subject to that if you're based on that platform. So I would say, again, do as much as you can away from in your own environment and use that as a library. But the education piece, when you walk in, you have to let them know that you can create a secure environment for them that's going to protect their data, that's going to be secure, that's going to be in a way that they can interrogate it and they don't have any fear of it actually being compromised by the LLM itself.
Right. There. And then there's always the process, and I want to of prioritizing, right? Where should we, burn our calories, so to speak, on AI so that we can get good results, productive. Oops. I don't know. Wonderful. Of course, we do this when there's a fire alarm going off. But I'll just stop and let you answer that.
Yeah, that's right. What we find a lot of times is there's a lot of things that are possible. I won't say everything's possible. More and more things are becoming possible by the day. It just has to be broken down into reasonable chunks. You have to start with what the outcome is. And if you give me a sea of data and you tell me you want everything, then that doesn't work. If you tell me you want 2 or 3 outcomes, we can go find now with the RAG technology and things that we have, we can find those outcomes and we can build them where they're the high value outcomes that people want. So the more specific people are about the use case, what they want to have happen and the data sources they have, then the tools are getting sharper and sharper. And as we have the platform to go and get that and train that and optimize that so that you're going to get a predictable result. Right. But I'll finish up. I know, from our perspective, I talked about a responsible AI policy. Doug, for you or anybody who reaches out to you directly, my email's there. Be more than happy to provide a template for businesses to get started. We want to provide some value adds here in this webinar. Responsible AI policy, as well as a readiness assessment. So if there's MSPs out there that don't have those in place, which we believe are foundational documents, please reach out to yourself or me. I'd be more than happy to provide that as the service. And this is a part of what we do in order to help get the legs underneath you and get started. in your practice. And in the end, I'll just give you one slide to close on, and we can kind of wrap it up. But if we do this right, we're going to be able to balance this enthusiasm, this opportunity, this innovation, this that is AI, with your GRC, with your governance, your risk management, your compliance, and that should be in harmony. And that's kind of the last slide that I have is really that that scale. And you got to think about being transparent, having it be traceable, and being reliable. So you've got to wrap all those things together. So I'd be more than happy to take any questions offline. My email, I think, was on the last slide as well. So the the last slide, I guess the one after that. Yep, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, it's Gregg, Greggl, at Synthreo.ai. So again, I'll wrap it up. I know with time here. Just wanted to say thanks again for everything.
All right, Gregg, thank you so much here. I just as we pivot over to Howard, we're beginning now through the underwriting of Tech Errors Cyber, asking the questions around, are you, as an MSP, do you have an AI governance plan? And right now, that doesn't carry a lot of weight from the underwriting perspective. So those of you who say no, it's not the end of the world, certainly. But that is something that I think, we are going to be taking a harder look on as we go forward here. And it's probably a good transition to Howard, because Howard wakes up every day thinking about risk or having to deal with issues relating to risk here. And so Howard, again, thanks for coming on, partner with Pierson Ferdinand. Appreciate you joining us. And I don't want to jump right into the AI conversation. I'll let you kind of dictate it, but does AI, in terms of emerging risks that any business face and certainly MSPs face, is AI becoming more and more of an issue?
So Doug, thank you for the introduction. I'm happy to jump right to that part. Maddie, would you mind just rolling through to slide number 12? No, 11. Sorry, 11. Apologies. So the short answer, yes. No, AI it's here. We need to talk about it. You need to talk about it if you're using it, whether internally in your own products to perform what you do, or it's in a product that you are giving to your customers. You need to talk about AI. There's just no other really way around it. I mentioned the startup here because I think a couple of points you said earlier, both Doug and Kyle and Gregg, actually within your statements too. It's all there, right? Like, so this was a survey by SailPoint earlier this year, right? So in 2025, and this talked to IT professionals. So maybe one of you even answered, I don't know, right? But in here, they say 98% of organizations they're working with intend to expand their use of AI agents within the coming year. But only 54% of those same professionals have any full awareness as to the data that their AI agents can access. So going back to Kyle's point earlier about one of the issues being not, potentially it's not just like the exfiltration, it's also access, right? Some of the data breach notice statutes out there require breach notification if there's only access versus exfiltration. New Jersey, for example. So this is a real thing. And then one of my favorite stats, because I think Doug, you were really hitting on this hard. Gregg, you too. 92% of those that use governing AI agents say it's crucial for security, but only 44% have an actual policy in place. So it's crucial for your security, but no one actually has any policies in place to protect the use of it. And I think it's important when you think about it. It's not just how you use it. It's whether you're using it, where you're using it, and are you disclosing it, right? Are you getting people signing off? Are you letting them know you're using it? Because what do we know about AI? You can make mistakes just like a human. But going back to, if you go to the next slide, so these are just kind of like, this is what's out there. It's here. We're all using it, but there's no policies in place. And underwriters may not be penalizing you now, but they will. It's just a matter of time until they have a big loss from it. Trust me, media insurance policies right now, they are all over this. Why? Because someone could copyright infringement. If you're using AI and you're giving it to a customer and you're not making sure it's not pulling third party in public information from sites, and you're not double checking it, going back to Gregg's standard, if there's no human double checking this, you're going to be hosed. I hate to say it. I'm going to talk very bluntly about it, right? Like that's what's going to happen. So you need to protect yourself from that. So you have to manage it, right? And so these are just, so I'm part of, it's not a sell, but like there are many organizations out there, non-profits, some profits, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. But they're out there and they're talking about this stuff because it is a real issue. And when I talk about how unique your risk is to the world, and frankly, and to insurance in and of itself, it's just a matter of time until they're expecting you to do this. And they don't care how big your organization is, right? Like you may not have to have, like I'm a big proponent, if you're in a corporation or an organization that's large or medium or larger size, you need to, you should be having like a council. Various components of your organization should be getting together. If you have clients that have multiple components of the organization, it's not a one or two person shop, and they have an HR division, a marketing division, and all that stuff. They should be talking about this too if they're using AI products, because how a marketing person uses AI is different from how you're going to use AI, which is different from how someone in HR is going to use AI, and definitely from how I in the legal department would be using AI. So you have to understand how you're using it. What are the benefits of it in that for that particular use? Get your hands around it, and then develop practical policies so that you're not, to Gregg's point, it's not here to stop you from doing and creating and building. That's not the point. It's all here to help, right? The policies are designed to make sure you do it without getting sued. Right. That's kind of where I come in, right? Like we don't want you to get sued. There are policies you can create. Now, going back to AWS, and as Kyle mentioned before, some of those other larger incidents that have happened, whether it was a system failure, like the Amazon says it was for now, or it was some type of a malicious attack by a criminal organization or a threat actor. What we know is that it's not just what you're doing, it's also what your friends are doing, right? So Maddie, if you could just jump to the next slide real quick. It's you have to understand what your partners are doing, right? What are you telling your partners? Right? What are your partners doing? Are they using AI in the products? Do you know what information they're accessing for sure? 100%, right? Like you need to understand it, there's use cases. And then do your due diligence, just like anything else, because here's what we also know about insurance companies, and Doug and Kyle, they can attest to this, right? But like over time, they expect you to do due diligence with all of your partners, all of your third-party partners, right? Who have you talked to? Who are you doing business with? What kind of, do they touch your system? They touch your critical system. Okay. Do you know what kind of security they have? Did you require a SOC 2 report? Right? Those are things you have a right to do in your negotiations when you're in that MSA agreement or whatnot, right? Like you can do that. So it's important that you be mindful of that, because it's right. Like I always point to the Target breach, because it's not only like the perfect pun because it's Target, but like they were the target, but they went to an HVAC company that played on their network with really poor security controls and a shared password for everyone that they probably wrote on like a little post-it note and kept it on the screen of their computer so they never forgot the password, right? And then guess what? Someone gets it and they hack in, and what we know, like enter the cyber market for the next 15 years, right? Like it really blew up as a result of that one targeted claim, right? But it wasn't Target, it was their friend. And their friend had no security. And that's how they got in. So know what your friends are doing with AI. It's no different. If your friends are not managing how they're controlling their employees, right? Is a 19-year-old marketing intern during their college years going to be sure that they're not inputting confidential client data into a third party, GPT, right? Is like, do we know that? No, you don't know that. They're probably going to do it. They do it all the time. I would do it if someone didn't tell me not to, if I didn't know better, right? So those are the things you have to do. Those are why you have to have the policies. So now, Matt, if you don't mind jumping all the way back to the beginning, but don't go to my stuff. I'll get there after. If you could just start at slide 5. Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So this is kind of where it's, to go back to it, right? So it's AI, but it's not just AI. You guys are in you're in a very unique risk. I hate to use the word that's on the screen, but it's flashing at me, and I'm going to give another one on the spot, so you're going to get it. But you are, and why are you? Because you're at the intersection, right, of bringing in multiple touch points. You bring business sectors together. And they can all touch together, right, through you. And that generally creates what's known as downstream or aggregation risk, which is probably an insurance carrier's largest concern with you, right? Which is if you got impacted, how many other people are going to be impacted as a result? Going back to Kyle's scenario with AWS, right? I made the joke earlier today that yesterday I couldn't get my kids McDonald's because the app was down because AWS was down. And I was really upset. And honestly, my 5-year-old was losing his mind. And we recently took the pacifier away from my 2-year-old, and she was none too pleased at all about what was happening in this situation. And you know what? I think I have a lawsuit. No, I'm not really going to do that, but this is what it happens, right? What if it wasn't something silly like McDonald's? What if they couldn't get into their bank and now they couldn't pay bills, right? And now there's penalties. And these are things, and then you multiply that by, I don't know, 5 million people. Big deal, right? It's no longer a small little, like, we could just pay him $50 to go away. No, you got to pay $50 million now. It's actually bad math. It's like $25 million. So my point being is you're in a unique risk, and that requires you to maintain a certain standard of care. Matt, please, next slide. And the standard of care is based upon a number of things, right? So you heard Gregg talk about ISO 42, 2001. Like these are requirements that you need to manage, right? And sometimes it's either going to be from an industry standard like that, or it could be in a contract where they say, we are going to require you to perform the following way at this consistent manner, and then fill in the blank. Well, you better reach that performance, right? And that's it. Like that's what they're going to look at. And if you don't reach that, guess what? Now you didn't meet your standard of care. Whether the industry tells you that's what it is or not, you agreed to it, you better meet it. And I mentioned expert witnesses mostly because it is a specialty field, right? Like this is not something that you can go in there and say, my IT guy was negligent and I'm out. No, you better prove that. You got to bring an IT expert in there to prove that the other IT guy was negligent. And unfortunately, your word's not going to prove it. You're going to need to bring in your own expert to come in there and fight that out. And it'll be a whole bunch of battle of the experts. So that's always fun and very expensive. And everybody makes money except for you. I actually do pretty well in that case. So for what it's worth, it goes well for me, but I don't recommend it for anyone, and nor would I. So next slide, please. I'm trying to be mindful of time. But it's not all bad, right? Like there are plenty of defenses for you, and hopefully some of you are familiar with what I'm going to tell. Hopefully all of you are. So limitations of liability, right? Like, hey, okay, I was negligent, guilty, but you can't sue me for $1 million. We have a limitation of liability of my contract fees. You only get me for 20 grand. Sorry, sucker. Right? Like, these are the things, like there are things you could do. You have risk transfer, indemnification, who's required to indemnify. And then what circumstance are you going to indemnify that? Are you going to include first party, third party type of claims? All of these things are there. Clarify your insurance, right? Call your broker up. If you don't have one, call up your local underwriter, right? Call Doug, call Kyle, call someone, and make sure you start asking about getting the right insurances to protect you. Someone could do that analysis and tell you, you better do it. If you have a lawyer, a general counsel, they can do that too. Ask someone who can identify your exposures, because it's not just performing a service and not meeting that standard. There's broader things. There's general liability, right? Sometimes you're required to do this stuff. And a lot of you know this, and I might be preaching to the choir, and I apologize for some of the baseline. But these are, honestly, these are defenses and things you can put in place to protect you both before a lawsuit and then ultimately after one. Causation is always a big one, right? Okay, even if I was negligent, okay, let's say I did what you said I did. Didn't cause the issue. The issue was you. You were the one who made the mistake. Or in this case, I'm going to blame AWS. I'm McDonald's. It wasn't my fault. It was someone else's fault, right? Those are two things, or they independently cause it at the same time. Those are all theories that you can use to defend yourself. The economic loss doctrine is a legal theory. It's basically argues that you can't get contractual damages and tort damages for the same event. You got to pick one, right? You either get contractual or you want to go if you have to meet for negligence. Pick which one you want to do. Breach of contract or not, then let's fight it out. And that's something that protects you. Usually that's going to be in the form of a whole bunch of motion practice and things like that. So like a well-defended tech E&O claim isn't necessarily always about the fact, right? It's about the contract and how did the loss occur and who was involved and who didn't do something that what they were supposed to and how the blame is shared, right? And so that's the kind of nitpicking fight that goes on when these claims ultimately happen. Next slide. What kind of damages are we talking about, right? When you make a mistake. So I talked about aggregated damages before, and this is going to really kind of hit it, right? Like if you go down and you have 100 clients and they all go down and then their customers are injured, okay, there might be 100 customers looking to you, but guess who they're responsible to, those 100 customers? All those other people that are complaining about not getting it. Me, the guy that didn't get to bake the McDonald's order. I'm so upset about that. I'm going to be one of those people looking to sue your customer because I didn't get it. You got McDonald's on your list. Congratulations. Great client. Too bad. Now I'm coming after you because you have them on your list. These are the things that happen, right? And so the numerosity of the claimants, and then there's always potentially, uncovered exposure, right? So insurance policies are important, absolutely, but not everything's covered in an insurance policy. Your broker will tell you that. Your insurance company will tell you that. Insurance companies, then policies define very clearly, intentionally, what they cover. They will cover certain costs and expenses and damages and settlements and judgments and interest and taxes or fines if insurable. But it's not everything. Lost profits, generally not covered unless you have certain business interruption covered, right? Contract penalties, delayed damages. Nope, barking up the wrong tree. So all those things, right? If you only have a tech E&O and you don't have a cyber policy, you're not getting the cost to redevelop your network either after a ransomware attack or something like that were to shut you down. So if you're looking at it from a cyber perspective, all of those things aren't covered unless you have a cyber policy to protect you. So all of those things are important. Proving damages, it's harder. It's a little bit harder in a tech E&O case. Like a casualty claim, right? Like a broken arm. It's like, yeah, guy's got a broken arm, right? What's the loss of value? And there could be economists will put up all sorts of formulas to figure that out. In tech cases, it's a little bit murky, right? Like, would the client have earned more money but for some failed tech? I don't know, right? Is it really 100% on the MSP? Like, you didn't do anything wrong in this scenario, right? Those are all the questions that really come in there, and a lot of it's based on speculation. So it makes it harder for them to prove their claims. But there's also claims. There's consequential damages that they could start looking for, right? Like, again, lost profits, lost opportunities, reputational damages, things like that, are all other types of damages that they can sort to claim. But that's if you get there. You don't have to ever get there, right? And I always say one of the most important things you do to protect yourself is contractually, right? You got to protect yourselves contractually. You all have contracts in place. You pray you all have contracts in place. I actually was talking to one of my clients recently, and I said, all right, you have a website that have terms of use and everything? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, great. Can you send me over the terms of use that you have all of your clients sign? And they go, the funny thing about that, we only have 2 clients that have ever signed our terms of use. Like, that's fun. So you have no contract in place, which means you have no control, no scope of services, nothing is defined. That's not good. Maggie, would you mind please going to the next slide? So make sure you have a contract in place for your tech services. These are certain contract provisions that are pretty common that you see. And if you don't have them in place, take a note, right? Talk to a lawyer, call someone, enhance your contract, update it, do whatever you got to do, protect yourself to the extent possible. If you're using AI, there should be another bullet in here about AI and disclosing it and how you use it and the policies you're doing to protect yourself. You need to contractually protect yourself. You can also, in there, make them contractually explain, are you using it? No, you're not using AI in any circumstances. Sign this contract. Thank you so much. You find out they're using it, you might have yourself a claim and legal protection to support you and protect you. Other than that, outside, not talking about AI, right? Limitation of liability, talked about it earlier, indemnification, insurance requirements. Already mentioned those. I put those in the top 3 because those are fundamental to your contract, right? Those are all fee shifting things. Get this risk off your balance sheet as much as you can. All right. That's the point of insurance. Okay. You can have dispute resolution. Whoa, you can't sue me right away. Don't sue me if you think I did something wrong. Let's go to mediation. Let's have a conversation first. We could have a cool-off period. All sorts of things you could do before you go right to lawsuits. Or you could even stay out of the court. You want to go to arbitration. I don't know if that's the best idea, but a lot of people do it. You could do it. You can talk to your lawyer, have it out, figure out if that's the right move for you. Confidentially, non-disclosure. All of these things are things you can do in there. One important one I want to point at the bottom, and all of them are important, so I put them on the slide. But one of them I want to highlight is user and customer responsibilities. Okay, define what their roles are. Yeah, you're saying I did it, but did you read section 2.2 where it said what you're supposed to do? Did you do this? Did you turn on the MFA? You didn't? Don't blame me for the breach. Right? Those are the things you can do to protect yourself. Right? America is also a pay your own way. Okay. That's the world we live in. You want to sue me, you pay to sue me and come after me, right? It deters fake lawsuits. But there are fee shifting statutes. You could do it contractually. You could do it there's certain statutes that allow for it. There are things you could do to protect yourself. And you should be doing it. I know we're near time, so the last thing I'll just say on the next slide, this is just a little IP checklist for you. Right? These are things you get, assets people are giving you or you have access to. Critical, proprietary, confidential, secrets, whatever it might be. Okay. You have access to it. Right? Here's a little bit of checklist for you to make sure you go through when you're entering into your contracts, when you're doing some maybe internal auditing. Those are all good ideas. Make sure check yourself, make sure you're doing well and you're doing these things right. And I know I don't have a slide for it. The only other thing I'd say is, because I know Kyle mentioned it earlier, and I just thought it's so true. The third-party claims, the wrongful collection statutes are they are outrageously consistent and frequent. If you have a website, all right, and you operate in the state of California, or you accept any customer and you market or whatever it is in the state of California, all right, you better make sure your website has all the right protections in place and all the right disclosures. If you're a millisecond late, under SIPA, you can be liable for $5,000 per violation. Okay, there is no guarantee what per violation means because the courts haven't made any final determination on that. There could be multiple violations per visit to your website. All right, so this is it might be a joke of a statute where I can't believe this is a statute. How can California make this happen and not put some guardrails around it? And then I go, right, it's California. It's not that surprising, but at the same time, it's out there and it's real. And there are some movements to get it revised, but until it does, this is a real deal, and you guys need to be prepared. So just talk internally, talk to your bring in an external team. You could use Gregg's team, you could use us, bring in legal. Make sure you're getting all of your policies, procedures, everything's in place, because you can't get your contracts up to date. Protect yourself. It's the most important thing you could do. And the more you do that, going all the way back to the beginning of what I heard is about consistency, right? The underwriters want to hear consistency. You want consistency in your pricing and terms, have consistency in your underwriting and your protection, right? That's how you do it. Protect yourself, get your contracts updated, have all the right policies and procedures in place, right? Make sure you have humans looking at everything before you send some product out the door. And you're going to be just fine. Thank you so much for your time. Any questions?
Great. Are there any questions in the chat? I have a whole heck of a lot of questions here, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to kind of go through those, Howard. That was really appreciated the overview that you provided here, and and I can say, again, from the conversations that we have with MSPs and the underwriting that we do on their own insurance, those contractual provisions are really important. And if you haven't had your contracts reviewed in over the past year or so, you really should have them reviewed by an attorney who knows the exposures that you're facing. And that would be another thing, Howard, because your general attorney may not be as familiar with these elements, correct? And it's always important to make sure that you have that in place. So
Very true. Very true.
there. Great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Sinclair. Sinclair Morris, if I see the SM, let's see if the video, there we go. Hi, Sinclair, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Sinclair, I was wondering if you could spend a little bit of time talking about, what we're doing with our MSP partners and the success that we're having with our insurability audit tool. And how they may want to think about using it if they aren't already using it today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really interesting. I guess I'll do a quick intro. My name is Sinclair Morris. I'm the account executive here at SeedPod. So I work very closely with our MSP partners as well as their clients on really just evaluating cyber insurance readiness. So are you insurable? And using our insurability audit to really help partners leverage our program and the savings that it offers to subsidize those security investments that are now becoming, required by carriers. And it's been very interesting because I have so many conversations with MSPs and their clients that there's definitely been like this shift. And I think that I'm recognizing, at least in my conversations, that the mindset across SMBs has changed. It seems like many are coming around to this realization that, that dangerous assumption that they are too small to be targeted is in fact not the case. I don't know if that's because of the rise of AI or contractual, agreements now including cyber insurance. But I've definitely noticed it, an awareness that a single vulnerability can lead to catastrophic loss. And I think with that, C-suite leaders are now no longer viewing cybersecurity as like an IT checkbox, which we were previously seeing a lot of. It's now becoming a very core part of business resilience and continuity planning. So I thought it was really interesting that ConnectWise released like a 2025 State of SMB Cybersecurity report that said now over half of SMBs, 51% of them, are ranking cybersecurity among their top 3 future priorities. And it actually was outranking the importance on even business growth and customer satisfaction. So it's definitely becoming a top priority, not so much just the conversation around IT and the services being provided, but also just being able to offer a holistic approach to risk management, which is, cyber insurance is a major part of that. So our insurability audit, I see a few partner names here that I recognize. You've probably heard of it. Very quick questionnaire that essentially provides a risk profile for the client, because as we know, when we talk about risk with SMBs, it is very hypothetical. So we really drill into their unique cyber exposure and what that looks like in dollars and cents. And we use that to guide the conversation in really an evaluation of how their security environment aligns with not only their unique cyber risk, but also their insurance. So, do they have the right controls in place that the carrier expects to be there, so that essentially they don't get a claim denial, which we're seeing, very high rates of. So if you haven't checked out our insurability audit, you certainly should. It really helps take the conversation beyond that of just IT services, and really how you can make sure that, your client is resilient against evolving cyber threats, as we just talked about today. There's, certainly evolving.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sinclair. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. Thank you for taking your time. Howard, Gregg, thanks so much for your insights. Really helpful. Kyle and Sinclair, really appreciate the contribution here. This has been recorded. We'll make sure that we put it out there, and this is real good content. And as you think about managing your business really over the next year, think about the approaches that Gregg talked about in terms of establishing a solid governance program within AI. Think about and sit down with your team and talk about the risks that you're facing as an organization, and bring in guidance like Howard and his group to help you kind of translate those into solid agreements that can protect you while still providing the value that you want to your clients as well. And certainly the insurability audit tool we have found to be very impactful. We're continuing to iterate off of that to provide more richer information to help you and your clients here. And we're doing, as Kyle may kind of mentioned, we're doing some very interesting things on the cyber insurance front, and you'll be hearing more from us over the next few months about that as well, to really help connect the risk and the security solutions that you're providing your clients to mitigate the risk with appropriate and competitive cyber insurance. So thanks again. Really appreciate your time. Take care. Bye-bye.